Today I want to review TMNT Shellraiser. From this point, I'm just going to call it Shellraiser. Otherwise, I'll be stumbling over myself for this whole video. Shellraiser is the premier roller coaster at the recently opened Nickelodeon Universe at the American Dream Mall in New Jersey. It's surreal to me this coaster and this park exist, but after years of delays, it's a reality. I should begin by saying I've also ridden Shellraiser's clone in Japan, Takabisha, so I'll be sure to compare the two throughout this video. On a relatively busy day at Nickelodeon Universe, Shellraiser is almost always a walk-on. I'm not sure if it was due to the large amount of families, the ride's location in the back corner, the capacity, or a combination of all these things, but it was great for me. I found the operations on Shellraiser to be inconsistent throughout the day. In the morning, the crew was pumping out trains at a feverish pace, allowing guests to wait for the front, allowing glasses if you had a strap, and allowing you to keep everything in your pockets provided they were zippered. In the afternoon, there was a new crew, and that crew was often stacking. They also weren't allowing people to wait for the front even if there was no one waiting, glasses weren't allowed even with a strap, and you had to completely empty your pockets, no exceptions. I'm sure these rules become more consistent over time, but it was quite frustrating during my visit. Once seated, you'll probably notice that Shellraiser has the over-the-shoulder restraints of the older Eurofighters. Many of the newer Eurofighters have the amazing lap bar only trains, so it's unfortunate Shellraiser doesn't. I believe I heard that's due to the launch hardware, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Thankfully, Shellraiser doesn't have much headbanging. It isn't glass smooth either. The ride does have vibrations in the pullouts from the larger elements. It's not really an issue if you ride it just once, but you'll start to feel it after multiple re-rides in a row. The ride begins with this funky little section before the launch. It's sort of awkward, but once you understand what Takabisha does, it makes a bit more sense. There's this abrupt little drop and a barrel roll with a ton of hang time. Compare that to Takabisha. You have the same elements, but they're in complete darkness, so it works a lot better there because you cannot see it coming. Where Shellraiser excels over Takabisha is how disorienting the other inversions are. The inversions are identical. It's a clone after all. However, the setting is what elevates Shellraiser. Neither the roof nor wall adjacent to Shellraiser have windows, so it's impossible to tell which way you're going. If that isn't enough, the coaster is also intertwined with a spinning coaster, Shredder. These two factors make it hard to tell where you're going. Shellraiser's first half starts with a launch that's very forceful. That's followed by the best of the ride's inversions, a supersized corkscrew that feels like an inverted top hat. It feels like you're going to roll back, so the hang time is fantastic. That's followed by a banana roll, and this inversion really toes the line between forceful and floaty. It starts off like it'll be forceful, but then it bails out and starts to get floaty, and before you get hang time, you whip back down. It's kind of hard to explain until you've experienced a banana roll, but I will say it's a lot of fun. That's then followed by the ride's whippiest inversion, a corkscrew. Then there's an S-hill that maybe gives a pinch of airtime before you hit the brakes. Next comes the second half, which starts with a vertical lift. Once you crest the vertical lift, brace yourself for a brutal stop. That brake had me grabbing for the restraint every time. You will then be held there for what seems like an eternity. On a clear day, I've heard you can see New York City, but I visited on a rainy day that made me thankful the Northeast has a big new indoor theme park. The big drop is breathtaking. The ejector airtime is both powerful and sustained. It's easily one of the best drops out there. While the inversions in the first half all have a distinctly different feel to them, the inversions in the second half all sort of blend together. But they're all really disorienting with a little bit of hang time, so it isn't necessarily a bad thing. But here comes my main critique with the ride, the pacing. I really wish the first and second halves were flipped. Shellraiser would be so much better if it began with a vertical lift and went straight into the launch for the second half. So how do I rank Shellraiser? I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's an absolute treat to have a coaster with a powerful launch and an intense big drop. Plus, you have those 7 sweet inversions. Ultimately, I do like Shellraiser a hair more than Takabisha because of that indoor setting, and it's great that I have this coaster available in the Northeast in the cold winter months. Have you been on Shellraiser or Takabisha? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the rides below. Thank you.